Hey traders, welcome back to the FX Heat YouTube channel. Hope everyone is having a good weekend so far and had a good week trading last week. If you followed my analysis, then there should have been a few trading opportunities that you could have caught. Well, aside from Friday at least, as I misread the markets on my analysis on Friday. Anyways, let's get into the analysis and look for some potential setups for next week. So, starting with the news, looks like we're going to have another wild week of volatility next week. Monday is relatively quiet, but take note, the US has a holiday, so it's Independence Day in the US. So don't expect a lot of volatility during New York session on Monday. And on Tuesday, we can see that we have PMI all across Europe. PMI services, all across Europe, 15 minutes after London open, and then continuing every 15 minutes or so until an hour after London open. And then if we go to Wednesday, so relatively quiet during Europe, but when we get to New York session, 2 hours after New York session, we have job openings, and we also have ISM services PMI. And then later that evening, so this is 6 hours after New York open, we have FOMC meeting minutes. So we can expect a lot of volatility on Wednesday evening. And if we go further into Thursday, during New York session, 15 minutes after New York open, we have ADP employment change. And then if we go into Friday, so on Friday, again during Europe, looks to be relatively quiet. And then right before New York session opens, we have Lagarde speaking again. And I don't know if you noticed last week, but it seems like every time we have Lagarde speaking, even during that debate, EU seem to be wanting to push up. And then 30 minutes after New York open, we have non-farm payrolls, and then we have employment change and unemployment rate. So even for Friday, we could have a lot of volatility in the market. So as you can see, we have a lot of big news events that are definitely going to cause a lot of volatility in the markets next week. Now on to Dixie. Starting with the weekly time frame, what you can see is 2 weeks ago we had a bearish candle, and then last week we started to push up to attack the highs. If we go on the daily time frame, what we can see is, so first of all, I mentioned this in my last weekly analysis, we had our 50% pullback at this point. So this was part of the reasoning why I was expecting Dixie to start pushing up. We had a lot of consolidation, one final liquidity grab, and thereafter starting the push to the upside to start to attack the highs. And then if we go on the 4-hour time frame, so like I said, this was a 50% pullback, the consolidation, and then here we had that one final liquidation on Monday, and thereafter V-shaped recovery. And then from Tuesday we had this one last mitigation, so pretty deep mitigation, and then thereafter started to push away, one more pullback, and this is the London candle where we had an aggressive expansion to the upside thereafter. And looking at this chart, what you can see is after that aggressive push up on Tuesday, we've just been continuing to the upside, higher and higher. We can also see that we have this supply range that got tapped, created this flip zone range. So first of all, created this lower flip zone, price pushed away, broke the highs, came back, tapped into demand, and then for me this whole area still flip zone demand, pushed away from it, actually went quite high on the continuation, and then on Thursday we had a very aggressive pullback to the downside. So I'll be completely honest, this aggressive pullback really screwed me up, because I was thinking at the time maybe we can just have a pullback into demand and then continue lower after that. But what I failed to miss is we had a perfect mitigation of the 4-hour demand, and thereafter reacted off of it, came up, and then from London Open started to push up higher, and then during New York again aggressive push to the upside, failing to break the highs, but thereafter having another pullback. So what am I expecting next? So from next week, what I'll be looking for, maybe something similar as what we saw down here on Monday. We continue to consolidate, and then maybe one last aggressive push down into demand, creating some sort of signs of strength, and then thereafter maybe one last pullback to look for the push to the upside, ultimately attacking the high and breaking the high. So that's what I'm expecting for next week. But what happens then? So if we are able to break the highs, there's really two scenarios that I can see. So after the breaking the highs, we could just have a reaction, and then after that continue up higher. But at the same time, this could be a sweep of the highs, and thereafter have an immediate reaction, and then trigger the start of a bigger pullback. So as you can see, I'm clearly bullish on DXY for the time being, expecting the price to go higher. But then thereafter, there's going to be a big question mark how price reacts after it breaks a high, assuming it breaks a high, whether we're going to have continuation or whether it's going to trigger a deeper pullback. And now on to EU. So if we start with the weekly, so quite similar, the opposite of what we saw on DXY. So 2 weeks ago we had a bullish candle, and last week you can see it was extremely bearish to the downside. If we go on the daily, so let me first start with what we saw on this pullback here. So this was actually almost a perfect 618 pullback, and you can see this was the last liquidation going into, if you look closely, we have a flip zone here that it tapped, which it reacted off of, and thereafter pushing down, attacking the lows. Now if we go to the 4-hour, so on the 4-hour time frame, what we saw is a corrective push up. So here you can see much more clearly that 618, the pullback into the flip zone that I mentioned. reacted off of it, one last liquidation, and thereafter expansion to the downside. And you can see we've had 3 consecutive drives down. So 1, 2, 3 drives down. Then what we had was a massive pullback after. So for this massive pullback, this is where I completely messed up my analysis for Friday. Because if you look at it right here, it appears like, I mean, it just reversed in the middle of nowhere. But if you look a little more closely, what you can see is, so we had a low here that was broken. So we can expect demand here where we reacted off of and created a flip zone. So I marked here the 4-hour supply, but if we bring it down and use this entire range as a supply zone, so this would be an 8-hour supply zone, you can see price tap perfectly into the supply zone and had a reaction off of it. So my thoughts on Friday was that after this aggressive push up, without noticing that we tapped into something, potentially pushing down into demand, and thereafter reacting and pushing up for a deeper pullback to the upside. But again, I completely failed to miss that we did react off supply. And if I would have noticed that, it would have been a lot more obvious that price was going to come back down to the downside. So instead what happened is price broke the previous low, had a reaction off of it, and started to push back up. So what can we expect next for next week? So my expectation is we'll probably do some consolidation in this range, maybe on Monday. We've already tapped into supply here. But what I could see is maybe one last deeper push into supply, and thereafter reversal, and then push to the downside to go and attack the lows. And ultimately, I'm expecting that low to go. I'm expecting this low to go, and then I'm also expecting this low, which was, I believe, from 2000 something. $2017 low to also go. Sorry, just let me double check and confirm. Yeah, I don't have it marked anywhere else. It's not even coming up, but the last day is, yeah, it looks like it's a 2017 low. Okay, so back to the chart. So what can we expect next if in fact the low gets taken? So as I explained on Dixie, there's going to be two clear scenarios that we can potentially expect to happen. So first of all, if this low gets taken, that means it's taken all this liquidity, all the buy orders that were previously made, and potentially sell stop orders, which could trigger and be used as an inducement to power a reversal and bigger pullback to the upside. Then the other scenario is after we break the low, potentially we could react after breaking the lows, come back up, testing maybe some demand supply range, and thereafter continuing down to the downside. So for that, I think we just need to watch the price action and just see how it's reacting after the break of the lows. If you're in shorts, probably take most of it off after breaking the lows, but then after that, leave a little on, because there is a potential that it could continue to the downside. But if you do start to see an aggressive shift and potentially some breaks of structure, then yeah, we could be coming back for a deeper pullback. For all we know, maybe it could come back to a supply level that could be created maybe somewhere in this area. But at the same time, it could just react off it, either come back down or push higher. And keep in mind, we do have a lot of news next week, especially towards the end of the week. So there could be a lot of aggressive moves in the market, which could move the price, crazy amounts, either direction. Well, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts about what you think is going to happen for price action next week. Drop a comment below. And if you found value in this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to ensure you don't miss future videos. I hope you guys have or enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll see you guys on Monday for a London market analysis. Peace.